Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on what to expect for fall and spring orientation. My name is Corinne Backegard, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Campus Life and Dean of Students. I use she, her, hers pronouns. As you read last week in President Christina Paxson's announcement, Brown's academic operations this year will include a 3-term semester academic model, with our new first-year students invited to join us on campus when the spring term begins in January. This model allows each student the opportunity to have 2 terms on campus and to do so in a way that reduces the overall density on campus for each of those terms. We are delighted to be joined by so many of you today, and we're glad to have this opportunity to answer some of your questions. The session is going to be recorded and will be made available on the Healthy Brown website. In a moment, I will ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and to say a few words about how they work with orientation and with first-year students. Following their introductions, I'll open with some of the questions that were submitted in advance of today's webinar, and you will have the opportunity to submit questions during the session by using the Q&A function. Isabella Duenas will be helping us during the webinar by providing links and information in the chat feature. So I'd like to ask now, Yoli, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Yoli Rome. I'm the Associate Dean for First Year, Sophomore, and First Generation College Academic Advising. My role really is to set up all the advising programs that are here to help you get through Brown. And my role in orientation really is to just make sure that you all understand the academic pieces of what's going to happen. And I'm hoping that Director Sean Thompson, you can go next.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean Thompson, and I am the Program Director for Orientation and First Year Experience. My role really centers around welcoming you to our campus, really coordinating the onboard and transition programming that will happen for you this fall semester and the spring semester. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to answer any questions that you have about the process. I know it could be a little anxious, but we're here to help you. And if I could introduce Program Director Heald.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Heald. I'm the Program Director for the Global Brown Center for International Students. Ultimately, my job is to create a space that's a home away from home for international students while they're at Brown. And how I do that as part of the orientation team is I run international orientation and the international mentoring program for the first year. And I'll hand it over to Olivia.
Peace, everyone. My name is Olivia McNeil. I use she and her pronouns. I am the Assistant Director for First Year and Sophomore Programs in the Brown Center for Students of Color, affectionately known as the BCSC. My title is a fancy way of saying that I take a critical look at the onboarding processes for incoming first-year students of color, and that is seen most broadly through our Third World Transition Program, or TWTP, as well as our Minority Peer Counselor Program, or the MPCs, and I look forward to sharing more about both of those soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, panelists. So Yoli, I'd like to begin with you because many of the questions that we received in advance of today's webinar are about the opportunity for new first-year students to enroll remotely free of charge in one Brown course for credit. Can you provide some more information about this opportunity?
Sure. So one thing I would say is that we really care about introducing first years to Brown in many different ways. The course list that has been provided by the faculty really has allowed for courses that are specific to first years over the fall semester, the spring semester, and the summer semester. That class list will be posted in CAB. It's called cab.brown.edu, which is really courses at Brown, on July 27th. So although there's a list right now, it's very difficult to kind of go through that because it doesn't actually explain the courses. It just has the four-letter end number, which is difficult to know what that means. I would also assure you that you will have an advisor and a Meiklejohn advisor. Meiklejohn advisors are our peer student advisors who will be assigned to you in August, which means that you will have those people to, if you choose to take a course, you'll have them to talk through your decision-making process. thing I would really emphasize is that this is voluntary. If you want to take a class, great, we'll help you think through that decision. If you decide that you want to take a step back and maybe not take a class, that's also fine. We are going to be working with you throughout your 4 years to create a whole academic plan, talk you through the decision points that you have. I'd also want to assure you that any of the classes that you see in CAB when it does open and it has all the courses populated again, first years really can take any course that they have the prerequisites for. So I think I've seen a lot of questions that have asked if students can only take a first year seminar or are they supposed to take a prerequisite class. Prerequisite classes are fine. They will definitely help you on your way. First year seminars are also fine. What's great about Brown and really what we are emphasizing, not just in this year, but in any year, is the choice that students have and really the ability to take what you think that you're ready for. So there might be courses that seem really exciting and interesting to you. You're not, it's very unusual to see that this course in particular is restricted to non-first years. That does happen, but really any other course, there's actually a function in that CAB where you can put courses that I am eligible to take. I forget the exact phrasing, but you can see that. And again, your advisor and your Meiklejohn, your peer advisor, can help you. Right now, the long course list, if you can see it, you'd have to use your Brown account, but it doesn't actually indicate which courses right now are first year seminars. I mean, it does actually, sorry. It indicates which ones are first year seminars, which ones will be in what semester. First year seminars are a great opportunity to have a good connection with a small number of students and a faculty member, because those courses are limited to 19 students, even in our remote situation that we're going to be in. There will also be first year seminars over the spring and over the summer, so you will also have that opportunity in the future. None of the classes are mandatory, although you might want to consider what you might want to take for this fall in order to have a plan for your spring and your summer. I know we've had a lot of questions and concerns about first years being allowed to take more than one class, excuse me. And really we want first years to have the full experience of being welcomed to campus and doing a full-time enrollment as much and get to as close to the new normal as we can. So that is why we have first year starting in January. If a student were to take more than one class, that actually changes enrollment for you. So we really want to ensure you that this is a voluntary course and it's a course that can count towards your degree, but it's not necessary for your degree. I hope that answers a lot of the questions that have come in. And it's not a small piece. It is a piece of your academic pathway here, but there's also so many other things like everything outside of the classroom. So for now, I think I'll stop, and probably, Corin, you're going to turn to another question. Thanks.
Thank you, Yoli. Sean, as you can imagine, we've also received many questions about what orientation will look like. What will happen in the summer and the fall, what will happen when students arrive in January. And I want to clarify that the context of this webinar really is for our new first year students rather than for our transfer students. I know there was one question that came in related to that. But can you tell us, as we think about the fall and we think about January and our new first year students arriving, what can students expect from their orientation experience, and particularly the opportunity to connect with fellow first year students and with upper division students as well?
Thank you for that question, Corin. We are super excited about the orientation program that we will host in January, which will primarily be virtual at the very least. But we are excited about having more quality time with our first year students in the fall semester. So we do have a fall engagement plan that we're calling Bruno Beginnings, and it's a virtual first year virtual community is very similar to the admitted student virtual community that you've been engaging with in the admissions, but we're continuing that engagement throughout the fall semester. Right now, we have a lot of activities planned starting in September and ending around Thanksgiving on a bi-weekly basis. And a lot of the programming will be centered around civic engagement, academic readiness, and excitement to join the Brown community. We are so excited to have this opportunity to connect with you on a more deep level and showcasing what makes Brown so unique. In addition to all the things that I've said before, we are really excited to tote our virtual events throughout the semester and programming from over 500 student organizations and a programming series from our student activities office, student centers, and academic departments. So there's a lot of things that will be going on, and it'll be up to you to really take advantage of, engaging in our community virtually. Another point that I'd like to add is that our upperclassmen are super eager to connect with you and show you what makes Brown awesome. They'll talk to you about how to select classes through the Mickle-John program, and you'll be able to talk to residential peer leaders about what it means to live on campus when you get here in January. All that to say is that you'll have enough more time to really get into the process, really figure out what transition means to you in this new COVID term and what Brown can do for you in the meantime. We really hope to keep the lines of communication open so that your onboarding process in January is a smooth one. We will talk about other directive components of orientation, like this new student tutorial that you have to complete, our EverFi health and wellness modules, but all of that will be happening in the fall semester, so you don't have to worry about that. As I said, I'm really here to help transition you into our campus, and if you have any questions whatsoever, here I am today, and we'll definitely send out information about our email to connect with us.
Thank you, Sean. Brown has a robust tradition of pre-orientation programs, or as we affectionately call them, Preo programs. Olivia, I was wondering if you could talk with us more about the Third World Transition Program, or TWTP. What will that look like this year?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak a little bit more about that. So as I mentioned earlier, I coordinate and supervise the Third World Transition Program, or TWTP. TWTP is a 3-day pre-orientation program that welcomes students of color to Brown by way of community building, political education, as well as resource sharing. I often get a lot of questions about the name Third World Transition Program, so I wanted to take some time to kind of speak to that. Our website, browntwtp.com, also elucidates this a bit more. But the term Third World in this sense harkens back to philosopher Franz Fanon's coinage of the term. And although Third World is often used as a pejorative, in current contexts, students of color at Brown have really come to reclaim the original meaning of that term, and it represents solidarity among colonized people globally. And so that principle is incredibly important to us at the BCSC. That principle is incredibly important to us as we initiate TWTP. To answer your question, Corin, TWTP has always centered community building, political education, and resource sharing as very core and central to our mission. And conducting TWTP in a COVID world is not going to change that mission, but it does necessitate our adaptability, right, for what this moment asks of us in terms of public health and public safety. So in terms of community building, we're going to be thinking about affinity group gatherings and events that are based on shared student interests and shared student identities and lived experiences. In terms of political education, we are going to be thinking a lot about the racialized and the class implications of COVID-19, and we'll be taking a really critical look at the current national uprising so that we can form a context for the world that we're currently living in. And finally, our resource sharing. We will continue to connect students to other centers in our division of campus life, such as the Undocumented First Generation and Low Income Student Center, or our UFly Center, the LGBTQ Center, the Sarah Doyle Center for Women and Gender, as well as our office for military affiliated students. Of course, we have the Chaplain's Office and the Global Brown Center, who you will hear from shortly. Above all, for us at the BCSC, and for me personally as a steward of this program, community wellness is of utmost importance. to us as we initiate TWTP this year, right? So everything at this moment is planned to run remotely. And we're thinking about really creative and effective and fun and generative ways to create spatial solidarity among student communities. So we're really excited about that. For more information about TWTP, excuse me, please check out our website, browntwtp.com, and it'll give you an idea of some things that you can expect if you do choose to apply for the program.
Thank you, Olivia. Andrew, can you talk with us about International Student Orientation and the International Mentoring Program, or IMP?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So the International Orientation is another pre-orientation program, very similar to TWTP in structure, but the purpose is a little bit different. The purpose of IMP is really devoted to facilitating the transition of international students to life at Brown and to life in the US through mentorship and community building. A little bit of history about the IMP program. It was student initiated, it's very student driven, and students are at the forefront of not only its current practice, but also any future decisions that we make around how IMP or how international orientation is delivered. And IMP, International Mentoring Program, begins with international orientation, and then it really continues throughout the year. Our students are put into groups with a mentor, an IMP mentor, who helps facilitate their orientation process, but also it serves as a check-in point throughout your first year at Brown to answer your questions, to be in community, to direct you to further resources, and to also bring you into the GBC space. And the Global Brown Center is the kind of core mission of what we do is really to create a home away from home for international students. And especially given the world that we're in right now, and a lot of things happening around the world and in the US, we also really acknowledge that international students live in multiple places during these times. And so we like to honor that experience and provide spaces for students to really process that with each other and with us. And so international orientation this year is going to, very similar to what other colleagues have said, we're going to transition to a virtual remote offering for a lot of our programs to keep in line with not only what our colleagues are doing, but also to keep the safety of our students in mind. And we're really interested in in co-creating that process with you all. We're looking at the fall as an opportunity to do things we've never done before. And so, as our students are either at home or somewhere in the US, we're going to try to deliver some sort of pre-arrival programs that really speak to the needs that international students have before they come at Brown. So you feel a little bit more, you have more resources before you arrive. And then when you do arrive, we'll build on those resources together in a very peer-driven way. And so we're very interested in what you want to see, both in pre-arrival and when you get here. And you can always contact us by reaching out to imp@brown.edu, as well as gbc@brown.edu. And however our program shapes up in January, the heart and soul of international orientation to really facilitate that transition to the US and to our community is going to be our guiding principle moving forward. So we're really excited to see you, and we're really excited to talk with you. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Sean, understanding that this is not your area of responsibility, there have been a number of questions that have understandably come in related to what students' residential environment will look like when they arrive in January. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about when students should anticipate arriving in January and what we might know about what the housing configuration might look like.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm not from residential life, but I'm happy to support them and share some information that I have that'll help inform orientation, actually. So students will be able to start move-in January 12th. We'll have a staggered move-in January 10th. And we'll have a staggered move-in till the 12th, with classes starting remotely or virtually January 20th, and then in-person instruction to begin January 27th. So everyone will be getting their housing preferences in and around November, and then you'll be able to know whether or not you'll have a single or if you'll have roommates. We really still need to keep in mind our health guidances as the changing conversation around COVID happens day by day at this point. So we want to make sure the safety of your arrival is paramount, and how you will live and learn on our campus is so important to us. So we want to take those precautions very seriously.
Thank you. Yoli, there have been quite a few questions that have come in related to students' opportunity to stay intellectually engaged and active, and opportunities for students to continue to grow during fall term. So could you think about that in terms of, in addition to the one class that students are eligible to enroll in, some other forms of engagement that students might think about or pursue in fall term?
Thanks. I think, so the thing that I didn't say in the beginning was that as an academic dean, a way to think about an academic dean is to think of me as a guidance counselor in the college level. So one of the things that is so difficult for students as they come into college really is to take a breath, take a step back. You've been working so hard to get here, and now you are here, and it is a little delayed, and I understand that. I also know that this is a great opportunity to take that breath, that the 4 years goes by so quickly. So if you want to be involved and take a course, that's great. But if you don't want to, that is also great. Really, whatever you want to do this semester, and I understand that people might be worried that they won't have enough to do. You will. Our Bruno Beginnings is we're fleshing it out. It's very robust. I actually have a son the same age, and this past year he did a gap year, which was completely changed. But there are definitely other opportunities that you can take advantage of. I think one of the things that we've been seeing in the questions and concerns are we going to have access to internships? There are ways for you to find internships. Brown doesn't have that set up yet. And especially for first years and the limited amount of time, because you're just coming out of high school, we don't have that set up yet. But what we will have in the Bruno Beginnings are opportunities to speak with alum, to speak with the peers that we have who are they're called peer career advisors. There really are just so many opportunities for you to engage with each other, with our peer advisors, with our supports, our great staff. So one of the things I'd also like to say is you're seeing 5 people, maybe 6, Isabella's picture. We are a big collective of supports for you. One of the things I think students will say is, should I go talk to an academic dean? Should I go talk to blah? It doesn't matter. We all work together to help students as they go through Brown. If you want to do internships, it's my understanding that you now have access to Handshake, so you might see some things that are available to students. That really is an opportunity for you to reach out. 3 months actually is going to go by very quickly. So in some ways, I really would encourage you to breathe, to know that you are going to go through your 4 years. It's going to be jam-packed. And even this semester is going to be jam-packed. And I understand it doesn't feel like a traditional semester, but really we are just excited for you to come in January and really have that opportunity to start together as a cohort.
Thank you, Yoli. One of the pieces I want to clarify, particularly since I put Sean on the spot regarding the housing and residential life question, I do want to clarify that one of the pieces that was present in the announcement last week from President Paxson is that we're really going to be following closely what our public health guidance is to inform our operations for the spring term. So I know a number of questions have come in about that question of, will our first year students be in singles, or might they have a roommate when they arrive in January? I wanted to clarify that one of the questions we need to answer based on the guidance and the situation as it's developing nationally and on campus. In November, we'll be making a decision about whether sophomore students will be able to be enrolled on campus in person in spring term. And that decision about what's happening with sophomores will inform what our opportunities are for first-year students. So it's one of the reasons we will not be sending the housing questionnaire, which we normally have students fill out much earlier in the process, until November, because we want to be sure that we know at that time whether the public health situation indicates that it would be okay for students to have roommates and to be in that kind of typical occupancy model when they arrive in January. And if not, and we don't have the positive public health indicators that would suggest that we could do that, that's when the decision would be made that sophomores are not able to return to in-person instruction in spring semester so that first-year students are in singles. So we're following all of that very closely, and we'll make that decision later in the fall. And that's why we're not able to answer definitively what that housing model will look like for first-year students, and why we're not yet collecting that housing preference information, because we want to be sure that it's informed by what will be the reality for students when they arrive in January. Speaking of arriving in January, I'm wondering, Sean, if you could tell us a little bit more about what we have in mind for orientation in January. We imagine what we're describing with our returning upper division students who will be joining us in the end of August and early September. We're talking about this notion of a quiet period where students are coming back to campus. They're engaging in testing, and we're having some time for us to learn new norms and new habits when students are back on campus. Can you talk a little bit about what will be happening with our first-year students, perhaps in person, during that January quiet period orientation time before those in-person classes begin on January 27th?
Absolutely. We want to make sure that your arrival here to campus is as smooth as possible, given the our COVID guidance and everything like that. We want to make sure that you arrive here safely and sound, and especially because of a staggered approach, we want to make sure that you have the information in a timely manner and all at the same time. So in between testing and things of that nature, we want you to get to know your new neighbors. We want you to get to know your unit. So the residential piece of your orientation will be paramount, especially to understanding how living on campus is going to look like for the rest of that semester. We do delve into a lot of work around diversity and inclusion. We want to make sure that you are well prepared to encounter, to celebrate each other's differences. So we do have a program called Sharing Our Stories that our upperclassmen are really excited to share with you. They talk about their experiences living on campus through different lenses. And we want to open it up and to make sure that we honor your high school career. We want to honor your walks of life. So you are adding to the tapestry of Brown instead of just succumbing to a new environment and a new surroundings. So that's one component that we hope to share with our students. Another thing is that we will continue to have a first year experience. We know that transition to our campus doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in the quiet period that we have for your safety, which would be around 2 weeks. It's going to take you a semester to really understand what Brown is all about, how to engage in your academic rigor, how to balance your time with your extracurriculars, how to join a club, how to make new friends. We hope that we are a part of that journey for you all too. Another event that we are really excited to have is our activities fair that is hosted by our student activities office. That is an opportunity to really delve into affinity groups, things that interest you, things that you've never thought that you'd get involved in, and now college is the time to really explore that. So we're all about exploration your first semester, given the safety of everything that's going on. We will hope to highlight buildings and support services that are gonna have to be sort of visited sparingly with appointments, with maybe tracks and systems of that nature, so that you get your Maslow's higher needs, right? You need to know where you're gonna eat. You need to know where you're gonna find textbooks. You need to know how to get the mail and things of that nature. So we are here to help you support that endeavor as well. So I hope that answers your question. And please, please, please share with us anything that you think that you'll need so that we have time to prepare for you as well.
Thank you, Sean. There have been a number of questions that have come in with follow-up asking for more information about TWTP and IMP, and particularly when to anticipate more information, what the registration timeline might look like. So I wonder, Andrew, if you could address that first, and then Olivia.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad to know that folks are interested in learning more about IMP and TWTP. So one of the great things about this fall semester and this new opportunity that we have to provide pre-arrival contacts with you all is that we have a little bit more time to also plan what our program is going to look like to best serve the new needs of these particular moments. And so for IMP in particular, we usually do a summer contact program where our mentors are actually reaching out to international students. And due to the delayed start, we've delayed that process as well. So you should start to expect to see, if you're an international student, you should start to expect to see some contacts from IMP mentors, maybe near the beginning of fall semester, as we kind of finalize our plans for what we're going to be able to offer for you. And in those contacts, you'll get a lot more information about what pre-arrival information or pre-arrival sessions we're going to be hosting for you, ways to engage with us, ways to, as Olivia was speaking to this earlier, co-create some of these processes, as well as, what January orientation is going to be, to look like for you all.
Yeah, so Andrew named a lot of the things that I was going to name. So I just want to reiterate this idea of co-creation and how this is such an auspicious moment to hear from first-year students about what do you want to know, right? Like what types of resources are interesting to you? What types of communities are you interested in building? And also what elements of political education are really pressing right now? What questions do you have about the larger socio-historical context that we're living in? And so currently we are in the process of building our TWTP team, which consists of workshop facilitators, community care coordinators, media specialists, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're being really intentional about people's time. We're being really intentional about people's capacity right now. And so we are moving at the speed of trust as we build this team. And so you can expect to hear from us likely on the tail end of when IMP information comes out. Because IMP is it's a mandatory program, I believe, for international students. Some of their deadlines are a bit more pressing. And so shortly after IMP information is released, you'll be hearing things about TWTP too. In the meantime, I hope that you will reach out to us at bcsc@brown.edu. I think someone's adding that to the chat now. If you have specific information, or excuse me, specific questions, I'd also encourage you all to subscribe to our newsletter because we're going to be releasing a lot of information about TWTP and just about our colleagues in campus life in general and some of the programming that's happening. So I encourage you all to stay connected, and we'll do our best to stay connected to you as well.
Thank you, Olivia. Yoli, would you mind representing for us many of the other Preo programs that exist in the college and talk a little bit about some of those programs?
Sure, thanks. So in the PDF of Brown and You that was sent out, you would see that there's a bunch of other Preo programs that are kind of more academically focused. We have Excellence at Brown, we have NSP Catalyst, NSP Mosaic, those are computer science, and Alexa just heard me say science. Sorry about that. And if we are going to do those in some kind of way, they will be remote, and actually there will be more information coming. Again, these are 5 people. We have a lot of people that are working on programming for you. I think another question that has come up, sorry, can I keep going, Corin? Great, thanks. So the other questions that have come up is, when is registration for first years? What are those courses going to be? Again, those courses will be posted July 27th, so you'll have at least a week to look to see and really go through them all. We will have webinars on kind of what to do about registration as we get closer to the end of the month. But really, registration starts Right now, the plan is August 10th. So in that time, you get to look at the courses, put some in your cart. We're going to have more explanation on what this actually means. It really is an opportunity for you to think through, okay, what kinds of things do I want to do with that one class? It's actually going to probably be harder to pick one class than even in a typical year where students have to pick 4. The other question I think I saw is, oh, your Meiklejohn peer advisor, your academic advisor, they're going to be assigned to you. So I think one of the questions is, it seems a little difficult for students to make connections in this COVID period. Yes, this is difficult. It's difficult to connect. Webinars, Zooms, elbow bumps, it's a little different. But your Meiklejohn will be assigned to you, particular just you and probably 5 other students, 4 to 5 other students. You'll have your advisor who has you and 4 or 5 other students. You'll have an RPL who will have, I don't actually know what the number is, but another small group. So it's, if you think about communities of care, like they're just going to expand for you over the fall and as we move into the spring. The other thing that's kind of coming in for academics are placement tests. So there's a few things to think about. One, if you have AP or IB scores, we are going to be sending out what that means. You can look it up in terms of what your scores might place you into for upcoming U. Also, there will be placement tests online. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work for language right now, but I would assume that it's going to be similar in that you would have a written part and then an oral part that would have to be by Zoom. The quiet period in and of itself is so that students can have lots of time to talk to all these different kinds of advisors, both in the fall and in the spring. So I just want to assure you that there are lots of people. I know that it's been difficult to maybe get complete answers. That's why we're having all these webinars. And we really appreciate the patience as we go through and really try to figure this all out so we can welcome you as smoothly as we can. Are there any other academic things I could answer?
Well, we can come back to you. We can give you a chance to
thanks.
read some of those in the chat. I know you've been rapid fire there for quite a few, Yoli. Sean, there are, of course, questions coming in thinking about what are pods? How are we thinking about, what do we mean when we're using the language of pods, of helping to create and support those for students?
Absolutely. So it's super organic. It's a practice that we hope folks, when they return to campus, really dive into. So think of it as 3 or 4, 5 or 6 friends that have all agreed upon how we will live together, how we work together, how we play together, things of that nature. You've established expectations of each other. You've established healthy behaviors with each other. Are we a mask on or a mask off group? Who's going to bring the hand sanitizer? Things of that nature. So we encourage you to find those folks that you will feel the most comfortable with as you move through our campus. It's not a directive, but we really do hope that it makes folks really, really comfortable, and it does help with accountability issues. So I feel like I would be more comfortable talking to my podmate about maybe you should put that mask on versus a total stranger in another pod, right? So really think about, how do we hold each other accountable? How do we stay comfortable? How do we stay safe? And who's bringing the hand sanitizer? Because I'm asking that all the time.
Thank you, Sean. I think this is such an important point, that what we want to do, underscoring what Yoli was saying a moment ago, that these are really challenging and difficult times for all of us, wherever we are. And we're doing the best that we can to find ways to normalize social interactions and to make sure that while we have to physically distance, we're not always having to socially distant, that we continue to build and form and maintain relationships and connection and community, even in the current context that we're in. So Olivia, I think something that the BCSC does so well is to build and foster a sense of community among students. I wonder if you could talk about some of the ways you are imagining for the fall when our returning students are going to be with us, and then looking forward a little bit further for the for January and the spring and summer when our first years will be joining us. What are some of the ways that you're thinking about building and fostering and sustaining community?
Yeah, I love this question because one of the things that makes Brown an incredible place is the communities that exist here. So, you know, my colleagues in Campus Life and I have been thinking very creatively, and we've been brainstorming and visioning into what does it look like to be in community with one another when we can't physically be in community with one another. And some things that have bubbled up to the surface on a more granular level might be like film screenings with facilitated dialogues to follow, special guest lectures. In the past, we've had concerts, so we could sort of imagine what it would mean to do like an online, like Zoom concert. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Of course, workshops, we can do game nights, zine making, students learning how to create care webs for themselves, students learning crisis management and emotional support skills, right? So for us, it's about creating spaces for communities to naturally form by way of fun and engaging events. And it's also about equipping students with the skills to be in right relationship with one another. So thinking about that sort of like dual purpose is incredibly important. So that is just a little snapshot of some things that you can look forward to. But I hope that you will take some time to look at the awesome campus life centers that we have in our division. There's something for everyone, and there's something for every lived experience. And we hope that you'll be able to find not just a place, but many places where you can call home.
Thank you, Olivia. I want to come back to you, Yoli, and ask if you can talk a little bit more, because there have been continuing questions, more about Meiklejohns and about academic advisors. How are students matched with their Meiklejohns and their advisors? What are the ratios of students to Meiklejohns and advisors? Should students anticipate interacting with these folks in the fall and in the spring, not until the spring? If you could tell us a little more about that, would be great.
So that's a lot. We really do expect to have students matched with their advisor, their academic advisor, and their Meiklejohn, which is a student peer advisor, who kind of helps students with the academic piece from a student perspective. So you really have this triumvirate of advising, because you also have your group. So one advisor usually has 5 advisees. So one advisor, 5 students, one peer advisor, 5 students. The Meiklejohn and the academic advisor are also in communication to help students think through their path. So again, those are hoping to be in August before actual courses start. So whether or not that that will be available to have individual conversations, by individual I mean on a Zoom in August, it kind of depends on how available people are. But really, we are hoping for students to have access to their advisors. Definitely their Meiklejohns, definitely their academic advisors. Sometimes that might not happen. We also have all the academic deans, and the academic deans will be holding drop-in hours in that registration period. So registration, again, opens as of now, August 10th, but really students kind of look through and pick courses all the way through the start of classes, and sometimes I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work for first years, because you're not technically an enrolled student for the fall, you're a special student for the fall. More information will be coming. I know that's kind of hard to remember. We are working on it, but really you have one person who's a staff or faculty member. You have one peer advisor who's a sophomore, junior, senior, and then it moves from there. By moves, I mean that we add on to that network, that community of support that you have. So your residential peer leaders, perhaps your MPCs, if you're a student of color, WPCs, and these are just acronyms, I'm sorry, that we have at Brown. That's I won't even actually keep going, but we have peer tutors, we have academic coaches. So it starts with the Mickeljohn and the advisor, and if you, and it just increases from there. So those advisors also will stay with you from the fall through the spring, through the summer. The expectation and the hope is that you also stay with that academic advisor through your sophomore year. The Mickeljohn might be graduated, but at that point you would have other peers. I kind of think that we're saying the word organically a lot, but it happens. It really does. And if you look back on the admitted student portal, the virtual community that we have, we did have a Zoom meeting with 5 of the Mickeljohn peer leaders who are working with me this summer. And you can kind of hear more about what their role is and what they do. Brown has a really strong peer connection community. I wouldn't say that I have worked as a professional staff in another university, so I can't speak to others, but I really think it's very close, and students are always willing to help one another. So one of the things you might have heard Brown is the happiest place. I think it's the happiest place in the sense that students are here to support each other, which is, I think, a big change. I think for a lot of students coming to a highly selective place, they've come from a highly competitive environment, perhaps, maybe not, but really we are all here to support you. And I hope you all remember that as you come. Thanks.
Thank you, Yoli. I want to come back to this question of how we think about student wellness, particularly students who may be already experiencing a sense of disruption to what had been the end of their high school career as they're thinking about an atypical start for their Brown experience, and how we're thinking about supporting students' overall wellness and well-being. Sean, I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Absolutely. I'm really happy about this orientation program, the Bruno Beginnings, because we're not just focusing on your academic and your social transition. We're thinking about your health and mental, wellness as you navigate transitioning onto campus. This program is a holistic experience. We do recognize where you're coming from, the hardships that you've had, and you're looking for a different experience when you come to Brown. And a lot of what's going to happen, a lot of the classes that you'll take, a lot of the new people that you'll meet, it's going to be a really big experience. It's one of these big things that you have to, kind of like tackle on. But we understand that reflection is super, super important to everything. There will be opportunities to weave in reflection throughout your Bruno Beginnings experience. What does this mean to you? How do you make meaning of this? Is this really important to me right now? Can I really handle this? Or do I need more? We'll have all those kinds of conversations with you. One great resource is our residential peer leaders that they'll be reaching out to you probably in September, I think, early September, maybe late September. And they're a great resource to talk to you about what it means to be a Brown student, a Brunonian, right? So think of this. You will always have opportunities to connect. If there are any issues, what you have, our students are super important in the referral procedures that we have, because we know that they can't take on everything, but they know who to pass it on to. We love to promote our religious life colleagues because we understand that spirituality is important in your college transition. So how do you practice? How do you think about ways of living and knowing in a virtual setting? Our religious folks, our chaplains, they're there to help. What does it mean that you stopped your athletic career so short? You were planning to do that at Brown. Our folks in athletics are here to think about that. They're here to support you as well. What does it mean for this racial unrest? How does it translate to your academic rigor, your academic career? Do you want to continue this education? Do you want to explore new ways and other thoughts? We're here to help. We're here to support every step of the way. We do think about COVID right now as one of our guiding layers of how we do in-person versus virtual programming. So we do have a strong health campaign geared towards really educating everyone about what the university is going to be doing. How do we hold each other accountable? How do we talk about masks, hand sanitizers, social distancing, things of that nature? It's really tough. We understand it. We're going through that right now. And we are learning some things that we hope to share with everybody. So we're all doing this together. We're all growing together. We're all going to help each other out.
Do you mind, Sean, if I keep you on the spot for just a minute, but in a completely different direction? So we're kind of going to go from this space of holistic student experience and wellness into a very tactical question about the new student tutorial and how students will know, particularly before they might be taking classes, some of the things that are really related to university policy.
Got it. Absolutely. So our office is really responsible for the new student tutorial. That is a series of questions that we hope students answer around the academic code. So academic integrity, things of that nature, our code of conduct. What does it mean to be a student at Brown? And we are going to layer in some things around COVID prevention and health and safety around that. So you'll have to take that new student tutorial before you start classes, and that will be available early August, around the time where you select classes. We want to make sure that we are transparent upfront about what we expect of you and what you expect of us as well. Our colleagues in community standards really think about how do we educate students and from a restorative process, not necessarily a punitive process. So we're all learning, we're all engaging together. It's all conversation based and it's all education based. We don't think about right and wrong. We think about how do we learn from the mistakes that we make from the past and how do we continue to spread that education to everybody else. We understand that your peers are great role models. So we do hope that our upperclassmen, they're learning what it's going to be like to be on campus this fall semester. They're going to be a wealth of knowledge for when you return in January as well. So I'm putting them on the spot. If any of them are on this call right now, you're on the spot. We need your help.
I think that's a great point. I want to clarify as well that we talked a little bit earlier about the question of whether sophomores will be on campus in the spring term, but our juniors and seniors we anticipate will be on campus in the spring term. So in order for Brown to offer those 2 residential terms for all students, but to do that in a de-densified way, that's where the first years and the sophomores, we're evaluating that, whether we can have both classes on campus in spring term or not. But the sophomores then would be returning in summer if they were not here in the spring, but the juniors and seniors will still be here in the spring term when the first years arrive. So these are things we'll be working very actively with our variety of residential peer leaders, peer health educators, Meikle-Johns, all the groups of upper class students who are mentors and advisors, who are often the leaders and organizers in their student organizations. Those are all things we will be working with to make sure that we have that continuity of experience and mentorship and support for the first year students, particularly as we're thinking about that summer term and what that will look like. We're getting close to the end of our time together. I do want to give one more opportunity, Yoli, because I know we've had a number of questions kind of around the calendar and when students might expect a solidification of what will come next, because we understand that a lot of our dates and timelines have been in flux and have been adjusting. And in many instances right now, we're in a situation of needing to give a range, a sense of when to expect more detailed information. A lot of our focus in the particular moment have been preparing for the immediate return of our continuing students at the end of August. But not to say that we're not also simultaneously planning and preparing for first years for their arrival in January. So if we could talk just a little bit about some of those, what's next, what to expect by way of timeline.
Sure. So we will have another webinar on kind of course registration, what that will mean for first years, specifically for first years at the end of the month. And we will have a revised kind of calendar of things that are due in mid-August. If you think about it, everything that was due kind of August 1, is not due August 1. You will need to take the new student tutorial, especially if you're taking a class. But really, first year students, you get your stuff in as you can. So the health insurance forms, your health questionnaire, not your housing form, and your AP credits. We will also have an update on APs and how the AP and IB scores and how this is going to work in mid-August. So after that, we are going to start with our formal programming of Bruno Beginnings. By formal, I mean the stuff that we've been working on to help you be engaged in the fall. Again, the course is voluntary. Bruno Beginnings is voluntary. As much as you want to stay involved with these things that we're putting together, that's great. And again, if you want to be off-grid, you can be. And the academic deans do have hours over the summer if you'd like to talk with any of us. That's actually, Issa, maybe you can put up brown.edu/college so that you can have a schedule of advisors that can help you. And again, by mid-August, you'll have your advisor, you'll have your Meikle-John, and a much more dedicated to you little group. So, and again, you'll have other people that will be helping you along the way. Did I, mid-August?
That was great. Yes,
Great,
thank you. So I want to thank you all for joining us here today, and I am so grateful to get to work with the colleagues who are here on this webinar. And as Yoli has said, we represent just a few of so many who care deeply about our students' connection and transition to Brown, and who will be here to help support and guide and work alongside students as you explore your interests and as you adjust to campus. We are looking forward to connecting with you across the fall term and welcoming you together as a class in the spring. And we are delighted that you will be part of the Brown family. This recording will be posted on the Healthy Brown website within a week or so, or possibly less than that. And all of the participants here today will receive a link when that video is posted. So if you have students or others who would like to watch and weren't able to join today, we'll see you there. Thank you very much.